We have already transformed the way the world operates. And now I believe we have a chance to do it all again. To be the great explorers of the next era.
So hello everyone, and it's great to join you all today at MWC. Wow, this is great. So I'm super excited to be with all of you today, and we definitely have a wonderful lineup of speakers joining us. This panel is about young leadership, and in the world today, 42% of our global population is below the age of 25. That's a lot of people who will become tomorrow's leaders, shaping the world and shaping the way we think, believe, and see our future. And many already are. So we'll discuss young leadership through various lenses with the views of our esteemed panelists who will contribute to the discussion. So please help me welcome Biju Nair, the EVP and President of Assurant's Global Connected Living Business Unit, Rosen, the CMO of Amdocs, and Anne-Flore, the Vice President and Head of T&M Europe and Capgemini Engineering. Can we all give them a big hand? Okay, so we can see that young leaders bring a completely new lens and way of looking at things in a business, but are currently quite rarely seen in kind of top leadership positions as a decision maker or an influencer of a company's actions. So the first question, which I'd actually like to ask Jill, is, in your experience, what are some of the key issues and the challenges that young professionals face in the industry, and how can industry leaders address or mitigate these challenges?
So, first of all, thank you for having us. I think it's a really important issue. If you think about young people who were born in a digital society, they were born swiping photos and on social and playing online games, doing everything almost sometimes too much digitally. And I think there's a lack of awareness and maybe even appreciation that to make all that work, there's an industry that stands behind or under everything and makes that world tick. The telecommunication industry is responsible for everything that we know that's connected. And they see everything on the top, but they don't realize that all this stands on the platform called telecommunication. So first of all, it's an awareness issue. They're not aware of the wonderful ecosystem of software companies and equipment manufacturers that make this possible. And there's an amazing place for young people to bring their creativity, their imagination, and to help us as companies create things and services and applications that are actually relevant to them. Not to talk about the fact that they can also help us and inspire us on how to create the next level customer interactions when we talk about how our industry connects to its customers. So there's two layers. The layer of what is it that we do? You know, connectivity is transparent. You don't see it. Where's the Wi-Fi? You don't see it, right? So people are not excited by it intuitively. They see games, they see social. So the first issue, and you talked about challenges, and what we need to do is to bring this kind of open this rabbit hole and to make them understand that there is amazing opportunities for creativity, for their creativity to actually contribute. And the second thing is that we as an industry need to pull them in order to help us create better things, let's call it, because we need those fresh minds in order to make our visions even more inclusive to the younger generation.
I mean, I think that's really interesting because, you know, you're absolutely right. You can't see networks, right? You can't see telecom. So if you can't see something, why will you want to, you know, be interested, or why will you be enthusiastic by it? And that kind of actually leads me to think like, well, what kind of got you into this sphere and what excited you as a young professional to get into this industry?
Interesting question, which starts here many years ago. As a startup, I was a co-founder of a startup, and I was in booth 5 in one of those small spaces, and I started to see all these big companies and the amazing technologies that I never even knew existed, and that drew me from being again in a small startup to now one of the leading companies in our industry, Amdocs. And so it's definitely an awareness and having the exposure to be inspired. And I think that's missing from the general population. It's on our shoulders actually to make it happen as the industry. And I think maybe even if you had 5 days of MWC in closed loop, but then open it to the general public, these conferences which have amazing technologies are closed and are very expensive. So how do you CES, by the way, the Consumer Electronics show in Vegas. I remember as a telecom professional, the first time I was in Vegas, I was surprised because regular people were there. And I was like, what? Regular people see the inside? Yes, that's how they get in. And I think we need to let people inside.
Wow. So no, actually, this is great. And if we think about it, you have actually gotten inspired from coming to MWC of all of these years, and now you're the CMO of Amdocs. Amdocs is doing great things. I was actually able to visit their booth earlier this morning, and now I think we should all think together as an audience. Imagine this is one Jill Rosen we have over here. Now imagine a world with 50 of them. And imagine a world with 100 of them. So think how much that could influence the future of our industry and how we could actually see the industry evolve if we get more young people into the industry at such a young age. So, that actually leads me onto a question which I'd like to target onto Biju and onto Anne-Flore, because I know that both of you are very passionate towards this and are working hard every day. So as industry leaders, how do you envision the industry evolving in the next decade? And what role do you see upcoming young leaders playing in shaping that future?
Yeah. So maybe...
Yeah.
So first, I'm very honored to be part of this session because looking at all the strong transformation of the telecommunication industry, I think young professionals are very key to shape the future of this industry. When I started some years ago, it was about deploying, implementing mobile networks in Africa. So it was very exciting because new technology and as well how a revolution to connect people together. But I think today, telecommunication industry has an even more impactful and strategic role because it's at the center of other industries transformation. It's at the center of critical applications, and so we need now to even rethink the way we build our services. And our client expectations and more have another dimension. In fact, they are looking at real-time services, resilient services, sustainable, secured, high quality. And so we need really to rethink the telecommunication of tomorrow. And of course, for that, it's about moving from connectivity to personal services. It's about to become a data-driven industry. It's about to move network to software, to cloud, to virtualize, to autonomous, leveraging all the technology, data, AI, ML, and so on. It's about to have security and sustainability into it. And all of that needs to be done in a more and more complex environment in terms of ecosystem, alliance into the industry, standard, regulations, technology. And that's why, from that perspective, I think we need more and more agility. And that's where I think the young professionals play a key role in that industry, because we need their innovation mindset, we need their agility in digital and technology, we need as well their appetite for diversity, for sustainability. And so for us, it's very important to grow into the telecom industry with all these young professionals. But by the way, we see that they're already part of it, in terms of leadership, in terms of impact. A lot of them are already in a lot of initiatives of the industry, like, for example, Camara, or like Nephew, where it is about how we can put all the players of the telecom industry together to build the future of the telecom. Because we need now to enable this cooperation among an even more complex ecosystem of players in the industry.
Okay, yeah, so that's really interesting. And I mean, you did mention a very interesting point. You mentioned education. So I'm not sure if you guys have noticed on the panel, but Biju and myself are wearing a very interesting, logo over here. There's actually the pin for the Sustainable Development Goals by the UN, targeted for 2030. One of those are actually SDG 4, Goal 4, is actually quality education. So, but that brings me on to Biju. How would you see the industry evolving?
So I'll latch on to the same theme that Anne-Flore talked about, technology. No matter what your job function is going to be, technology is going to play a major role in it. So the biggest thing is, adapt and change with it, right? You can't walk through any of this trade show without looking at AI. Everybody's talking about AI. So it's interesting, last year at the World Economic Forum, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said this: AI is not going to take your job away, but someone using AI will take your job away. And that is very true. So to be able to adapt, and there's going to be technologies like AI, there's going to be data-driven decision-making happening. Robotics will continue to happen. Last year, Tesla's CTO said that their most complicated technology is their self-driving car. And they said 80% of the software code that is written for the self-driving car is written by a Microsoft technology called GitHub Copilot. So for the young people out there who are thinking about career decisions, be curious, always be learning about what's going on, and take that technology heads on so that you can use it to adapt to that changing world that is happening today.
Okay, so I mean that's really interesting, and kind of carrying on with the topic of AI, which I'd like to ask all of the panelists is, how do you actually navigate the balance between leveraging technology such as artificial intelligence and definitely generative AI, whilst maintaining human connections in the kind of evolving landscape of the industry?
Maybe just to come back and to react to your point, I think technology is really key, and of course AI is really key for our industry and telecommunication industry. And for me, we need, AI in the industry. It's about personalized services, moving to autonomous network, more efficient operations, having a better vision of what's happening. It's a complex, more and more complex industry. You need AI to help you, to empower you, to understand what's happening and to take the right decision. And I think for me, the critical topic is more how you make sure that you have the right environment to leverage all the power of the technology into the industry, and how you understand really the technology to make sure you use the full power of technology to grow the telecommunication industry. That for me is the main topic behind.
I maybe want to offer a different perspective on generative AI specifically, and I think it's completely disruptive to the career landscape. I think, first of all, it offers many people who are not necessarily into engineering, and definitely young women who are less likely to be in engineering roles, now to be able to be part of the development environment, because the future of coding is speaking language, natural language. So by definition, also, generative AI will level the playing field between female and male talents, and I think that's super encouraging for young professionals. I think many roles also in the marketing space, I see, and you visited our booth, which it's a profound development from last year to this year. I almost feel like 5 years have gone by. in this year's conference, the entire booth content was created only by my team. No external vendors. That means my internal team, which does include a few graphic designers, but not too many. But I would say the major contributors were just people who were super interested in generative AI and were able to generate all the content and applications you see on the booth, which means young people who are not necessarily geeks, engineers, or super graphic designers and didn't have the accessibility to education to the extent of being, you know, proficient in development or design software, will be able to be part of to develop a career. And that's definitely true also in our space, telecommunication, whether it's marketing, customer care, engineering, networking, you'll be able to do so many things. I see it in our demos. The future, if you would have visited us a year ago and we would have shown you how a network operation center looks like and who's able to actually take care of faults, it would be like an experienced network engineer. Now you have a co-pilot. In the future, you might not even need it. And to that extent, you're like a captain of an aircraft, and you're just making sure everything works all right, and the computer basically does the flight. You maybe land, you maybe take off. And I think for young people, it's an amazing opportunity to actually lead in bringing generative AI skill set into the telecom industry as well as others, because they are the ones who learn faster, who might even bring it from school, college, university. And I think that is completely disruptive, and for the younger generation, that means that they will be able to imagine and create in a much faster time to market, which is, you know, what we're all waiting for.
Avanti, if I may add to what both Anne-Flore and Jill said, you know, internet, one of the primary inventions of our generation, it lowered the cost of information transmission, right? In my mind, very much like the examples that Jill was giving, AI is lowering the cost of cognition, right? And in our space, which is the mobile industry, telecommunications, and mobile smartphones in particular, I'm seeing so much creativity happening in the use of AI. I'll give you two examples. One of the latest smartphones that just came out is aiding people who are visually impaired to be able to take pictures, whether it's selfies or pictures on the other side, where when the camera comes into focus, it is telling the person two objects are in focus, and it takes the picture automatically. The second great example that I saw is in language translations. I could pick up the phone and call somebody in Japan. The phone recognizes that I'm calling somebody in Japan, and it starts to translate my English into Japanese on the other side, and vice versa into English when that person speaks. To Jill's point, his team designed the entire booth. In the old days, you would need to get some translators working together with you and applications and things like that. So that lowering the cost of cognition and these ability to help people who are disabled, those are, to me, those are like massive, massive inventions.
Okay, definitely. And I mean, I definitely think that that is a very interesting point, which all three of you mentioned. You all kind of touched upon the notion of access, and with the development of new technologies like generative AI, we see more and more access to those who may not have had it earlier. So, kind of following on this train of thought, AI does give maybe the vulnerable access, right? It definitely does that. But then there's also the other side, which we also mentioned, is, about jobs and losing jobs. So I have a question for the audience, and maybe we can just do a quick, raise of hands. Who here actually, like as of now, uses generative AI like ChatGPT or BARD or, any other AI software to help with their work? I'm going to raise my hand because I definitely do. That's great. That's great. And now, can we also have a raise of hands of who, deep down feels that generative AI will one day be able to take over their job, and maybe do so within the next 25 years?
The next 25 years?
Yep.
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll also raise my hand a little bit. But on this notion of kind of balancing between the two, I would love to hear from all of you. Do you think that we should be afraid of the development of AI? We recently had the AI Act, which came out by the European Commission in December last year. and that did do kind of an outline of some security regulations, but the thing about jobs, access, and balancing the two was quite unclear. So what's your take on it?
I'm very convinced by technology and AI. For me, it's more power and to empower us than the opposite. So maybe I am wrong and I don't see the drawback, but maybe it's as well my optimistic view of things. And I think we will reinvent our job. I mean, of course, AI will give us a lot of more power in understanding things and building things, and so we will have maybe other jobs, but we may be more smarter job, or so it's my vision about it.
Okay, very.
I think any company that is going to be using AI in any aspect of their functions have a responsible AI charter, right? And that should focus on all the things that people are afraid of with responsible AI. And again, going back to our industry, the mobile technology industry, you can take a picture with a smartphone and create all kinds of deep fakes with it. But there are responsible companies that are creating that technology are putting a watermark at the bottom to say this has been altered using AI technology. So do we have solutions for every possible bad things that can be done using AI? Definitely not. But I think those type of responsible AI activities that companies and responsible companies are putting together will definitely make an impact. I am definitely not in favor of government coming and over-regulating it, right? Because I think that'll kill creativity, and that's particularly bad for the younger generation.
Look, I would love to see a recording of this conversation 10 years from now.
Definitely.
I think that trying to oppose or slow down generative or general intelligence later on, artificial intelligence, is almost like fighting gravity. It's here. It's not going anywhere. It's developing super fast. It will change society for sure. I think society and the work environment will be completely different. What is a skill set that now is very specialized, like I'm an engineer, I'm an artist, will be completely different. Maybe I can be an engineer and build apps using generative AI, and then in the evening do some masterpiece artwork, and then in the night. So I think it'll open up the potential for creation and talent in a way that we can't even imagine. I think that it'll change society. Maybe, we'll have robots and whatever working for us, doing things that we never did, and we will be free to do other things. It's quite hard to imagine what it would look like, but I'm definitely for the creation of safeguards, especially from, in areas where it can be manipulated to create fake realities and create chaos by fake news, etc. So that needs to be taken care of, but we need to do it in a way that doesn't stop progress. Stopping progress never did any good. I can go back to the horses and the cars, and there was a whole industry that just doesn't exist today, and now you ride horses when you have when you have spare time, and it's not a transportation mechanism anymore. So generative AI, I think, will benefit in many domains, but definitely we also have to be aware of the issues behind it and make sure that we are careful, but not careful to the extent that we stop progress.
Okay, yeah, no, so that's actually a very interesting take, and honestly, I do completely agree, because we've seen this in the past. When we've tried to stop research and development, things always go south. So we should definitely, continue research, continue development, obviously doing it in a regulated way, as you mentioned. And this will also definitely help to encourage the younger generations to get involved with these new technologies and these new initiatives. And I mean, I think the younger generation definitely feels this lure, as Jill said earlier, with being able to see something and then feeling connected to it. And just on that same note, the younger generation is also, as we've seen in 2023, very vocal and active on the issues which they care about. And one of those issues is diversity and inclusion. So a question which I'd like to direct to Anne-Flore, and the other panelists can feel to jump in, is that, in your opinion, what role should diversity and inclusion play in the future of the industry, and how can leaders ensure that these values are integrated into organizational practices?
I think the telecommunication industry is becoming more and more diverse and global. And from that perspective, diversity and inclusion is just key in our organization to be able to navigate into this diversity and this complexity. And so, yes, we need to really take care of it. And if I take maybe the example of Capgemini, diversity and inclusion, of course, is our key values of the company. It's in our leadership trainings as well. It's a really key foundation of our company. And we have a lot of initiatives in that domain. And maybe one of it I can speak about is in Morocco, where we do spend a lot of time to do some awareness actions into the school for female. And we are as well the most important recruiter of female engineer as well in Morocco. And let's say we are very proud to have a balance today of 50% male and female in our engineering entity in Morocco. So it's something really we are proud of and we are pushing a lot in our organization.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
overwhelming data that shows that diverse teams succeed, right? It's diversity within teams create diversity in thoughts, and that bring better ideas to the table. But I don't think enough is being done in this space. End of 2023, McKinsey published their women in workplace data. And as you rise in ranks, the C-suite is still less than 25% is occupied by women. And when you start looking at women of color, it is 6 to 7%. So there's a lot of room to grow in terms of diversity inclusion.
I think, first of all, we need to move uncomfortably in our seats, because if you walk around the corridors here in this conference, I would bet around 90% of the people here are men, or 80 maybe, right? And it makes me feel uncomfortable sometimes. I can tell you as Amdocs, and that's just one part of equality and inclusion. I think as Amdocs, we're present in 90 countries, and each country has its own issue. In India, the women in the workspace is a very big thing, so we put a lot of focus on that, and we were recently voted the best place to work for women in India. In Israel, we are targeting minorities, and we're the largest employer of Arab Israelis. In Mexico, we have also gender focus. So in each country where we're present, we make sure that we understand the local issues where we are active, and make sure we try and we strive for inclusion and diversity, because you rightly mentioned diversity is successful. It makes a better workplace, it makes better ideas, and it's fundamental to everything we do. And I think it's something we need to work harder as an industry, and this place is a testament to that we're not there yet.
Okay, yeah, so that's really interesting, and it's a very important topic, definitely, to discuss this. So, in this conversation, we've discussed a lot, ranging from kind of AI to, young professionals and advice for them to, how the future will be and how young professionals will actually disrupt our industry. So I want to end off just from a quick note from each of our panelists. From all three of you, can you share 3 key takeaways each on just the future of the industry and how young professionals should go about being the leaders of their tomorrow? We can start with Yeah, sure, Jill.
Okay,
let's start
so
with
first of all, I think generative AI, as I mentioned before, is super disruptive and providing an amazing platform for young professionals of all professions to enter into our industry. It doesn't matter if you didn't learn mathematics 5 or 10 years ago and you cannot be an engineer. In the future, you will be able to be an engineer, because with the help of generative AI. If you want to be in marketing, you can go into marketing. So I think that technology is a platform for young professionals to really extend themselves anywhere they basically wish and where they find their passion. I think that's probably my biggest advice for young professionals is understand their passion irrespective of their background, and they can make it.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I won't talk about the industry trends because we covered quite a bit. If I were to ask the young people of today to take 3 key takeaways from this thing, one is build good resilience. Because one thing I'll guarantee you, no matter what you do, well-played plans don't work as they plan. So building resilience is very important. Be a constant student of communication, because there is no such thing as I already know how to communicate. There is always going to be more that needs to be done. And third, surround yourself with really smart people to whom you can delegate. Your success is going to be surrounded by the people that you have around you.
Great. Yep, Anne-Flore.
And maybe to complete the picture, maybe I will say four. First, build your convictions, where you want to go, what you want to build as a value for the industry. Second, will be have fun. I mean, do what you love to do. Be passionate in what you do because it's where you are going to be good. And maybe the last one is be yourself. Maybe it's the most important. Just be yourself.
Authentic.
Yes, authentic.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you know, I think that what you said is a really important point because to get into the industry and to do something, it will be hard, it will be tough in the beginning, for sure. But if you have fun with what you're doing, you'll be able to get through and manage.
I forgot one, my
Yes.
first one, sorry. I forgot my first. It's take new challenge. Don't hesitate to take new challenge because it's really where you are going to learn as well and to grow. Sorry for that.
No, of course. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect note to end off as well. Have fun, persevere, and take new challenges. I want to thank you guys all for your time, and can we give one big last round to all of the panelists, Anne-Flore, Biju, Nair, and Jill Rosen. Can we all give it up for them? Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.